How to overcome fear of starting something new. I know if you're watching this video right now, you're probably someone who is trying to figure out how to overcome this fear that's kept you stuck. You're trying to start something new. And in this video, we'll be discussing how to overcome this fear of starting an exciting journey or starting something that you've always been dreaming of. Now, to get a sense of, what is this obstacle called fear that keeps, everyone from starting their journey, we would like to explore two, types of fears that is very prevalent when it comes to starting something new. And the first one is societal anxiety or social anxiety, as it were. Now, in the area of social anxiety, this is what we call pressure from family, friends, those around you, right? This is something that stops a lot of us because we start thinking, what are people going to think about us? Oh God, I'm scared, And the truth of the matter is, everyone feels that way. You're not. So if you're someone who thinks that way, you're not abnormal. You're not a strange person for that. Everybody thinks that way. It is something that you have to understand that you're probably wired that way, but there's a way out. Now, let me explain it in this way. Now, the way your brain is probably designed, like I spoke about it in one of the videos, the amygdala, there's a part of the brain which is wired to identify risk and assess risk and, tell you information. Okay, this is probably danger. So it's going to it's a threat to your life. So now that's the same way, when people want to start something new, as something as new as putting themselves out there in terms of podcasts, or maybe personal branding, or even just anything that gives you visibility or anything that goes against the norm of the people around you. Your brain would interpret it as this is a risk to your life. Please stop immediately. That's how it's so funny, but that's how your brain will interpret it. It will be like, this is a risk and you're probably going to die, so stop, don't do it. And that's how people interpret it. It becomes something that cripples you. And do you know the funny thing? When you really access and do an internal audit or even an external audit, you would realize that people actually do not care about you. People do not care about you. And let me use this as an example, right? Right on to the point where you probably clicked on this video. Were you thinking about any of us? Were you thinking about, this guy is going to wear a black shirt or she's going to wear, a peach? Yeah, right. You were probably not thinking about us, but now we're here connected, right? But before that, you were not thinking about us. So that's the same way. People do not go about their lives thinking about you. Everybody has their own bulk of problems to deal with. So now this issue of societal or social anxiety, it's just what it is, and I think it's one of the things that keep people from, making progress in life.
So oftentimes I think that the people you're even concerned about have fears themselves.
Definitely.
And it's those fears that they are projecting onto you. Right?
Insecurities.
Yes, it's the insecurities that they are projecting onto you.
Yeah.
There's someone, I think it was yesterday, a YouTuber, also he posted on Instagram. He was saying that the first time he wanted to start his first podcast, he has a couple, I think. The first time he wanted to start the very first one, he sent a message to somebody he respects so much. He even put a screenshot of the person's response. The person was like, nah, it's something along the lines of, nah, this won't work, bro. Wow. Something like that, with a laughing emoji.
Wow.
Right? So imagine you're someone who wants to start something new, and that's the kind of response you're getting. But that's the thing, you would often get those types of responses. It's just now for you to look beyond it and just know that it's you who wants to start it and take the right steps. Yeah. Because you would always get those things around, people around, you would always have those reactions or something along those lines. Yeah,
that's so true. And I'll share an example of my life too, right? A lot of people and I know everybody can relate to this, because in life we go through different stages, right? From our like primary school, secondary school, up to the tertiary or higher institutions, and you develop friends at every stage of this life, and you have family and you have friends, maybe family friends and all of that, and based on your interactions with all these people, you kind of know their personalities. Maybe generally a bulk share of those people. You probably know that they are in a certain way. Maybe there are people who have probably a myopic mindset or probably have a poor view of the world, and you tend to interpret or visualize yourself from their lens, and that's what do you understand? So you would like look at yourself from their lens, and so that's what eventually stops people from making. So it's a difficult thing, you understand? But what you must understand is this is your life. You must make a personal decision to own up your life and live your life for yourself, not in a radical way that you are void of taking suggestions or even like advice on people. I'm not saying you should be insensitive to that, but what I'm saying is you must understand the place of living your life for yourself, for your own cause, void of what other people think about you. Right?
That's a good one.
Yeah. So let's move on to the second one. The second type of fear that limits people from starting something new is self-inflicted fear. Now, I think this is even more dangerous than the first point you mentioned. Now, this self-inflicted fear is an internal voice. The other day we spoke about imposter syndrome. We also spoke about limiting beliefs and all of that. Now, there's this internal voice that's in your head that would tend to come up and tell you that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not big enough, you're not tall enough. Or everything it points out to you is the negative sides of you. Have you noticed why isn't that internal voice doesn't tell you, oh, you can do this, you can do that? Like, it's not natural. It doesn't come natural. The only thing that voice tells you is your shortcomings. It's so sad. But now, you must understand that you alone have the ability or have the power to change what that internal voice tells you. And it comes from what materials you feed yourself. If you're feeding yourself with materials that are derogatory and, pull down your self-esteem or, things that don't uplift you, trust me, that internal voice is going to be negative. Do you understand? I'm sure you have a story to relate to this thing I just mentioned, right?
The story.
Oh, okay. Please give us the story.
Oh, so I have quite a number of... When you say self-inflicted fear, I think this is the one where I pitched my tents then or not now, right? And it was a thing where, just like you said, God had to work on my mindset.
Okay.
Right? When you have potential, there is, like you learn things easy, but the potential is like 100, but you're only maximizing 1%. Right? And that's just because you have put yourself in that situation. I'm talking about myself now. Yeah. I put myself in that situation where I can't see past the cap that I put, right? And that just came from me changing the thoughts that
you have about yourself.
Yes, feeding myself with things that, listening to people that, okay, they you listen to them and you're challenged. They're like, okay, how did this person do it? Yeah. How then can I do it? Yeah. And at some point in my life, I didn't think I could do much. Right. I used to think my voice was...
I don't like my voice.
I did not like my voice, right? And coming to this point now where I'm able to even sit in front of a camera and share what I have to say is in itself.
It's a miracle.
That's a miracle.
Praise the Lord.
It might think it's something little, but it's a miracle. And I don't know who is out there. You're feeling that type of way. You're telling yourself you're not good enough. Opportunities come and you look at the requirements. You say, now the experiences are not aligning. But I trust you. You get to a point where you have eaten so much material, read, listened to podcasts, that even if you see 7 years of work experience, you will still apply for that place. Because at that point you're like, what's the worst that can happen? They will tell me no, right? So that's just it. Once you get to that point, you realize that, you just, whatever happens, just keep moving. You see that it's not like the bar has been set so high. You remove the bar and you set you set another one and you cross over it. Right?
You become the bar.
You become the bar. Right? So that's just it.
You know, the other day I was recording, because I try to do this every Monday. I record, maybe you've seen it. On Mondays I try to put out a word of encouragement on my So on Monday I spoke about imposter syndrome, and I was trying to really give a face to this imposter syndrome thing. You know, we tend to see imposter syndrome as if it were a huge thing, you know, and really for me, how I interpreted this, or what I got to understand about imposter syndrome is, it's a lack of skill. It's a skill gap rather than not you not you being the person that you purpose to be. It's just something that you lack. And why do you lack that? It's because probably you've not done what you've done for a period of time. You understand? Like when we started this, sitting down in front of the camera and, you know, saying that we are YouTubers or people that are doing podcasts. At first, you know, we didn't own up that thing. I probably okay, I'm just someone who is figuring this out. But the moment, and I'm sure the viewers, if you're watching this, you would notice if you go to probably our first episode, the confidence at which we speak has changed. And it's because we have done this for over a period of time. And that confidence has come. So when you do, it leads to discovery. And when you discover, it gives you confidence to be able to share value with other people. Now, you don't discover when you're not doing anything. When you sit down and you don't have ideas and you don't know, that confidence will not come. So now, this already erases the portion of imposter syndrome. Now, so you just need to get better at what you do, and eventually you feel a sense of, yes, I can do this. Do you want to add something to that?
I think just to add to that, I'll give an analogy. It doesn't matter the water that you put a fish in, it will swim.
Oh wow.
Because it has that ability.
Just swim.
It has the ability. Right, once it's water, that's the habitat, it can do it.
Wow.
And that's just how what he has shared is competence. When you have, there are people who are public speakers, right? That it doesn't matter whether you wake them up at 12 a.m., 5 p.m., whether it's a 30 people crowd, 1,000 people crowd, they can still deliver, right? That just comes with the competence, and they've sharpened that skill. So that's just what you need to know and just walk along those lines.
That's so good. Just remember, nobody starts out confident, right? You only build your confidence out of repetition and doing something over a period of time. So let's move on the conversation and let's share some practical ways you can overcome, this fear of starting. And for me, I like to be a realistic person, right? So I would say the first thing you should do is, if you're trying to start anything, set a realistic goal for yourself. Start small. Don't be too over ambitious, right? Now, I'm sure maybe I want to use podcasts as an example, because this is the method through which we are interacting right now. If you have probably someone who you look up to, and you want to, probably you like the way their podcast looks and all of that, you shouldn't envision yourself. Like, it's good to have a vision that one day you become like that, but you shouldn't want to start that way. That's so unrealistic because, number one, you're probably not so familiar with how everything works yet. So doing that to yourself you're doing a disservice to yourself. You can't want to start big when that's the first time you're starting at anything. Start small, and eventually you begin to progress, and then you can raise the bar high. So what I would even suggest to you is set the bar very low for yourself if you're starting, so that at least you can even go higher. Because if your bar is so high and your energy level is very low, you can't jump. Now, like, those guys that what's the name of that sport? Not even the stick one, the one that you run and then jump and then go. Yeah, the high jump. Like those guys that do the high jump, there's a bar, there's where they have them. So if you're someone who cannot jump high or don't have the energy in your legs to jump high, you're probably going to fall down. You hit the bar, right? So that's the same thing. You must understand that, hey, there's a big dream. Yes, it's true, but okay, where's the bar right now? Can we have a bar at the lower ends first, and then we can progress? So that's a practical way to start off. Yeah.
So I think if you've done justice to that one, the second practical step I'll say is reframe failure. Right.
Yeah.
And this one I can totally
you relate to it.
I can totally relate. I'll give a very personal story. When I was doing A-levels, so it's usually 2 years. And the first year, I remember after the exams, which is usually January, I think those are when we have the exams. I received the results and I was seeing you. You know what you means? Ungraded. This is not. I still have that results in my room because I said I was going to show my children that paper.
Ungraded.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
They couldn't grade you.
They couldn't grade you because
like,
you didn't do well.
that's
they don't even know where to start.
Yeah, that's the bar, like the lowest bar, right? And I was so broken.
Yeah.
But the school, because the school used to do A-levels and then foundation.
Yeah. So
the school suggested that rather than, it's two things. It's either I go on to still do the A-levels, but in my second year, I'll have to resit the first year exams. Or I go on to A-levels, which is 1 year, and I'm starting go on to do foundation, rather, which is 1 year, and I'm starting afresh, and I'm just, the exams are in December, so I'll write the exam before I'm going on break, right? And I was happy about that, so I took that option, right? And that's just what I'm saying, that I didn't let it break me and I said, okay, I'm not going to pass in my life again. And I did very well with that. That's just, at that point that I was, the A-levels was not the route for me. It was the foundation route. And I did my absolute best in that part, right? Wrote the exams each time before going on break. Because I can't be going on break and be trying to reach for exam. It just didn't work for me, right? So that's why I say, if you're out there and you failed at any point, you can use that failure as a leverage to propel you forward. Right? There are so many things that happen and you don't see them coming, right? It's like, how did this happen? But just calm down first and just think about it. See, what can I learn? What's the strategy that I can adopt that would help me make this situation come out better? And that's just what's best
so
for you.
Good.
Yeah.
You said it perfectly well. This is so beautiful because I can totally relate to everything you said. I probably was not a very good student back then in school. But that's a story for another day. I believe I'll share more of that story. But I think most of the people who were probably in my high school or all of that would probably see me and be like, is it this guy that's, But that's what I think failure does to you. When you fail a lot, it has a way of channeling a different person in you, right? So another thing you need to take into consideration, or a practical step, is you must know your why. Have a purpose for why you're doing something. Now, for instance, the purpose of this podcast is to help someone who is just starting their transformational journey so that you can see that it is possible. You can see it is possible now. So that is a why. It is a strong why for me to sit down on this chair every day. You understand? For us to sit down and speak to you directly. There are so many things we want to do. We have probably projects and work and all of that, but this is probably a greater cause. You understand? So have a strong why. A strong why will keep you guard and will help you to push yourself. Now, I don't want to dwell so much on this. We've spoken a lot about this in our previous videos. So if you're someone who wants to understand more, just go check the other videos and you get to understanding more in depth of this. But have a strong why, and understand why this thing is really important to you, right? Yeah. So take us to the next point.
The next one would be have a support system.
Okay.
Right. And this could come as friends, it could come as family, or it could come as mentors. Why? Because there are days when you would just not feel like doing anything.
That's right.
Right. You started something, or you even want to start, but you're just not feeling it. There are those people that you have that once you just have a conversation with them, it's like you're pumped to just go again.
I fuel to the fire.
Yes, I failed before, but now I can do it and I can excel and cross the bar. And you need those people. No man can succeed alone, right? If there's a project you're trying to do and you see that your strength is failing you, or it's not as much, you don't have capacity, you can actually lean there, you can tap into the strength and the leverage of other people. And I'm not saying go and like pest and suck all no, it's just you have those people who, once they speak to you, they share something with you, you hear them speak, you're just energized to keep going because they've walked that part, or they may not have necessarily even walked that part. It's just that they can see from a different perspective than the way you're seeing it.
Sure.
And that's just
that's so beautiful. It's good to analyze things from different angles. Now, just to wrap up this conversation, the last point we'll be sharing is you must be kind to yourself and, be realistic with yourself. You've made a little progress, acknowledge and don't over celebrate wins like we always say here, but celebrate your little progress. You've bought that camera, celebrate it. You've turned it on, celebrate it. You figured out what ISO is, celebrate it. Don't be someone who's just too pessimistic about yourself or rigid, you understand? And then you could also have a mindset shift, Maybe you're someone who always think, what if I fail? But what if you win? Have you ever thought about that? What if you actually win? We are always so quick to say, what if I fail? What if you win?
I wonder why.
Why, right? So, visualize yourself, I like to say, now, I didn't used to do it before, but now I know to do it. Have a long-term goal for yourself. Visualize yourself 10 years from now. Where do I see myself? What am I doing? How am I doing it? Right? So have that mindset shift. Visualize yourself becoming that person you want to be. Right? So I think that's pretty much what we have for you today. So final encouragement is take action. Right? Listening without taking action doesn't get you anywhere. But what makes progress in your life is when you take action. So commit to taking action today, and you will see how much progress you make. So thank you very much for listening to this, and we hope to see you another day.